What's up, guys? Tyler here, Western States Ferry Service. Today we've got a pretty cool horse to work on. High-low, fairly offset on the left front. His foot structure lands pretty far to the outside of his limb, so he grows a very interesting capsule. As you can see right now, it's fairly chilly over here in my part of the country, so luckily today we get to be inside, but come on with me and I'm gonna show you how I tackle this horse. He's got some pretty fun stuff going on. As you can see with the snow coming in, we're gonna do some snow pads and stuff, so it's gonna be a good one on this one. So this horse right here, I think is early teens, Bosch, his name is. He's fun to work on in the sense that he's very irregular in the front end, and makes to where you have to pay attention when you're shoeing him. So let's get after it and take a look and get him shod. All right, and here's Bosch right here. So before I even start on him, I like to just take a look at how he's standing. This is actually critical in my evaluation on where I'm gonna take these feet and how I'm gonna trim them. You can see he's kind of spread out. He's almost base wide. And you can see at that high heel, which is his right front, is outside of that plumb line of the elbow and to the outside of the center line of the body. This left front is his low heel, and you can see how offset that is from the limb. So he crushes that inside wall and that foot will end up flaring to the outside. So it's a very interesting trim that I have to do on him. Likewise, this high heel does grow high on that outside. So you kind of got to pay attention when you're working on a guy like this. But we're gonna run some snow pads on him this round, and I might end up having to run somewhat of a wedge on that left front on the inside heel. That seems to be what keeps that foot from cracking. So we will evaluate as we go, and I'll keep you posted. All right, like always on these high-low horses, we want to start on this low heel foot. And you can see we've got a pretty ugly scenario going on here. We've got a pretty good failure of this wall right here. This heel's collapsing because of the pressure that he puts down on this from being offset. And if you actually look, you can see how this foot is not only pigeon-toed, but it is pulled to the outside of this fetlock right here. It is so far to the outside that he grows high on the outside, and as he goes through his cycle, he gets higher and higher on the outside, and so it shifts that foot further and harder down on this inside wall, which is why we get this collapse of this wall here. So lots of wrinkles on this outside heel. You'll see on my trim, though, I basically do nothing but trim this outside wall and hope to shout I can get this back into structure a little bit. So I'm going to show you this. Preserving my sole depth in the center of my foot. That is very important. Get a toe measurement so we know what we're dealing with. Again, I'm only aiming at trimming that outside wall because that's what's high right now, causing that inside to be crushed as he grows through the cycle. And this horse right here cannot be trimmed to live sole all the way around the foot because that will create a terrible imbalance in that hoof capsule. So try and get rid of some of this. Running my rasper on the outside like this is taking length off the foot, and it's just as important as taking depth. I think we can get a little bit more off of him. Before I get too critical about rasping and using up my rasp, I'm going to drop this foot again and check for alignment. We are very close right now to a balanced trim. So
The less you can use your rasp, the longer they last. Less money you got to spend on them. So all I did on this inside was just try and give myself some sort of a structure and flat spot for that shoe to sit. Even up our hoof wall thickness. Double check our length to see where we're at. Alright, go to the next one. Alright, check our fit on our low heel side. I don't want to take too much off the front of this foot. If I do, it'll only be, 1/8 of an inch or so. So it's critical to get a good burn on this foot, I've learned. It does help retain some sole in there. We got a nice contact all the way around. Check our fit. We have good expansion. We are running pads on this horse, so it does increase the size of the foot. So we do want some good expansion on there. I do like that support. All right, throw some pads on and fit them up.
So when it comes to the fit and finish of my shoes on this horse, because he grows high on the outside, and that's been a pattern since I've been shoeing in the last 4 years, what I do to somewhat assist or otherwise give relief to that outside wall as he goes through the shoeing cycle, I will grind this outside branch, the entirety of this outside branch from the inside toe all the way around to the heel. That way, as he grows, when he does get high on that outside, for one, it gives some breakover relief to the outside and allows that foot to move to the outside a little easier. Because he is pigeon-toed, he will break over this outside toe out here. Secondly, what it does is it will actually allow that foot to sink into the ground. When this foot hits the ground, it's going to sink to this side, and so the more he grows on this outside, the more it'll sink into the ground, and it'll allow for that because the width of this section right here will be slightly more narrow than this section right here. So I'll show you how that goes here in a second. So I'll do this on both fronts, especially this one. Obviously, I'll probably taper the inside of this branch as well to make sure I give it some more sink. So it's nothing scientific. There's no specific spot that I pick to grind to. I just want some relief. Dunk it in the snow a little bit, cool it off. Now, as you can see, we've got a flat section that's much narrower through here than on this one. So on hard ground, it won't make any difference whatsoever. But in soft ground, this outside branch will sink into the soil or the footing of the arena, allowing for relief of that outside wall, helping strengthen and otherwise keep the joints, strengthen the wall of the inside, and to keep the joints spaced correctly through the entirety of the shoeing. So we'll do this on both fronts.
All right, now it's time to put the shoe on, and I'll explain what I did on the shoe as I'm nailing it up. Okay, so just double check my trim, make sure I'm still in good shape. As I explained earlier, I tapered this branch all the way around right here, which with the snow pad on, it's somewhat irrelevant, but it still does sink a little bit, and then allow for some good breakover over there. Because he grows high on this outside, I want to give as much relief to this outside wall for as long as possible. And then this way, this wide section is suspended in the soil. This will sink just enough to account for that change of, or the difference of growth pattern inside to out. So we'll get it nailed up, and then I'll set it down, and I'll further explain my shoe set on him. Okay. So as we can see, our frog is nice and centered. And actually I have a slight bit of expansion to the foot itself, to this one here, to account for the fact that this foot is offset to the outside of the limb. So if we look from the back right here, and you get down really close to the back of the bulbs, you can see the difference of the fit on how much more narrow I am here and how much more expansion I have on the inside branch right there. And that's to hopefully support that limb structure, because that's what we want to do when we apply our shoes, is we want to support the limb structure and assist the horse instead of get in their way. So if this was too tight here, it would allow for this foot to sink, furthering the damage to this inside wall rather than trying to assist it and strengthen it. So we'll get them nailed up and clinch up and show you the final product.
Finished product.
Try to get those toes matched up as best as possible. Again, showing the expansion on the inside to account for the offset of that foot.